I'm Scott.
I'm Ben.
And this is a review. On today's episode, which is episode 43, we'll be reviewing Robin Hood 2018. What? I don't even know where to begin. So instead of my jokey intro, like I always do, here's what this movie basically is, right? So go with me here. So this is like if Zack Snyder was tasked with rewriting the Dark Knight trilogy and then like got to the end and they looked at him and were like, no, you're not doing this again, first off. And second of all, this is a Robin Hood movie. This isn't Batman. And then they hired some no-name director to direct it, and they just changed all the names. Like, this movie is one of the most baffling things I have ever seen in my life.
It's like if back in 2004, someone wanted to make, like, when they had that, like, obsession with making, like, that gritty reboot, like, instead of Ridley Scott making that realistic Robin Hood movie, someone who had seen The Matrix, like, 50 times.
And also, oh my God. And this is, like, that plus, like, Donald Trump is evil plus, like, the Iraq War for some reason.
Yeah. There's, like, random, like, contemporary political allegory going on here, which is, like, so goddamn on the nose. It's like...
It's absolutely, like, literally this movie starts off with the Sheriff of Nottingham, a.k.a. Donald Trump,
wearing a suit.
And he looks like a Nazi cosplaying as a Jedi Master. He's standing up on top, and he's like, you know... I'm not going to lisp shame Ben Middleston here, but, like, he's leaning into that lisp something fierce in this movie.
Something fierce!
And he keeps talking about how filthy the Arabs are and how they're going to come and murder all the innocent white people in Nottingham and how they're going to rape their women and how some of them are good people, but mostly they're rapists and murderers. And he keeps talking about funding the war, and I swear to God, they did this on purpose. He's, like, lisping so hard when he says war, it sounds like he's saying wall. Like, this is, like... So we're going to make fun of the screenwriter directly here, which we don't often do. It's a guy named Ben Chandler. This is the only thing he's ever written, and I'm probably including, like, essays in school. Like, he's never written anything in his life. This is his only credit on IMDb.
They grabbed some illiterate edgelord off the street and were like, hey.
It's like the edgy 8th grader that was a huge fan of American Psycho and, like, Catcher in the Rye. Thought he was a badass because he wore, like, black finger polish to school. And,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this guy...
Tipless gloves and shit.
This is, like, the most, like... The biggest, like, pathetic, liberal, like... allegory for, like, bad things. This is, like, the same level of, like, oh, Dolores Umbridge is, like, when she took over headmaster of Hogwarts, that was, like, when Trump became president of the United States. This is exactly like, if you're one of those idiots out there, like, knuckle-dragging morons that equates Harry Potter to politics, this movie's for you. You'll eat this shit up like a Big Mac, because, like, this is just chock full of really obvious and bad political allegory. Like, this was like the guy wrote Ben Chandler was sitting there scribing this and was like, holy shit, the Sheriff of Nottingham guy kind of reminds me of Trump. And he thought that was the most profound fucking thing ever.
He thought he was a clever son of a bitch because he was just like, yeah.
And Hollywood, of course, was like, yeah, of course, do that.
They lapped it up and gave him $100 million budget to fucking make this.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So,
which looks like, this movie looks like half the price.
Oh, yeah. I mean, okay, I'm not going to knock it for the way it doesn't look like that bad. It's like, obviously, I mean, it looks like it was shot like 10 years ago, but... It looks like it was shot competently 10 years ago.
They just found all this footage in a vault, like somehow, like Taron Egerton
They green screened him in.
Yeah, yeah.
This was originally
They
Jamie
Kung Pao,
Foxx's
yeah.
movie, and they Kung Pao.
This is the first thing that
Terminator.
Kung Pao that. This is the first thing that Jamie Foxx did after winning the Oscar for Ray. His agent. His agent was like, "They're gonna pay you $30 million to star this fucking derivative bullshit." And he's like,
Yeah.
"All right, cool."
I can't imagine Jamie Foxx in 2018 saying yes to this. That's a complete laugh. like this has to be archive footage. That terrible Arab accent he's doing that
yeah.
just turns into the Jamie Foxx accent. Which come
Yeah,
on,
he
Jamie Foxx
completely
has his
abandons
own.
it, yeah.
He has his own way of doing things, and
Yeah.
he totally just Jamie Foxxes through this whole movie.
The beginning of the movie, he's full on inshallah and
Yeah.
really committing to being a
Okay.
gentleman from Morocco or something.
We gotta back up here because
Yeah.
we're talking about Robin Hood and we're talking about Iraq War and Arabs and shit. This movie is crazy. So this movie starts off Robin Hood apparently is a lord, which I don't know. Maybe that's in some Robin Hood mythology that I've never. This is the Joseph Smith Mormon mythology of Robin Hood that somebody found buried up in West Austin somewhere, and they had to translate it through a hat or something So basically, he's a lord, and in nondescript medieval world, the movie starts off with him doing a voiceover, literally saying, "What year was it, you ask? I don't remember. What about the history? I'm not gonna bother. You won't listen." So he's just telling you right away that we don't give a shit about anything to do with this real story.
But it's still happening. They specifically have a flyer that says during the Third Crusade, which if you know...
That's the only time they said
Yeah.
it in history. Is
so it's
that.
approximately around probably 1100 AD
But it's
or some shit.
It's
I don't know.
the Third Crusade in a galaxy far, far away. This isn't Earth that we're on.
No,
at all.
no.
This is some fantasy world where bow and arrows function like machine guns. So
The opening sequence is the opening of American Sniper.
it's Black Hawk Down with fucking Robin Hood. So Robin Hood is a lord,
Yeah.
and he's getting robbed by Scene Lord Maid Marian, who is just a scene girl from 2003, and she just on Xanny bars the whole movie. She's just she's zanned out hard.
She's the most vacant fucking they specifically cut back to reaction shots of her that are supposed to be these emotive, expressive, bookends to the scenes, and she's just there with this zoned out face, someone's just pointing the camera at her,
she doesn't
stand it or some shit.
She doesn't look like she belongs in the movie at all. She doesn't fit with anyone else in this movie. Nothing about her fits with this movie, and they set her up to be this thief, and then they just drop that. That's just done immediately. And her and Robin Hood fall in love, and like I said, he's a lord, I guess. But then the Sheriff of Nottingham, Trump, is for some reason able to draft him into the war against the Arabs that's going on.
Yeah.
And then cut to
4 years later.
4 years later, and it's literally Iraq war shit going on.
It's in the Battle of Fallujah right now.
I swear to Christ, I'm not exaggerating at all. You watch this, and they look like they're wearing plated combat vests.
Yeah.
It looks like bulletproof vests, green, the coloring and everything. It looks like the same kind of deserty. And they're sitting there behind cover while they're getting a machine gun literally rained upon them of arrows.
It's breaking the walls and
It's absurd.
yeah,
it's absolute
gonzo bullshit.
crazy. This is straight up and then they're fighting the Arabs, and then Jamie Foxx is one of them, and he gets his hand cut off for some reason, because otherwise we wouldn't need Robin Hood. That's the key. Is if they don't cut off Jamie Foxx's hand, there's no Robin Hood, because he could just do us all. He's a badass. By him, and then they cut off his hand, and he's just all right, I guess I'll just be your butler now. Word.
Kato.
Yeah. So then Robin Hood decides to defend the guy that was just trying to kill him and tries to save his son because he's like, oh, that's not okay. And then they send him back to England, but also declare him dead.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense because they could have just killed him and not sent him back. But they do this whole thing where they're like setting him up like he's dead, but they don't actually try to kill him. They just send him home.
They give him a flesh wound because they can't kill him even though he committed like
high treason.
Yeah, treason.
And let a bunch of like prisoners go that they just captured who then kill a bunch of soldiers.
And attacked a bunch of his own comrades.
But even the guy even says like, we're gonna have you hung for treason, but I'll just send you back home.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Like a flesh wound to the stomach and puts him on a hospital boat.
So he's high enough status as a lord that he can't get hung for treason, but he's low enough status that he can get drafted into the war by a sheriff. Okay. So fast forward to when he gets home, and the Sheriff of Nottingham has fucked his castle into the ass. And this is we're getting back into the Batman analogy here. I know we kind of dropped that for a bit. So we have Bruce Wayne returning to a very derelict Wayne Manor, and everyone thinks in Gotham that he's dead. But then he comes back to the party, and it's Robin of Locksley, and he's back, he's famous, and his old swing, Marion, has found a new man, Harvey Dent, Will. And he's this guy that wants to do stuff by the books, and he's a political guy, and he stands up for what Robin Hood is doing, but he thinks he should do it without a mask. And there's this love triangle between the three of them that's exactly like The Dark Knight. And I swear to God, I'm going to spoil this movie for you. I swear to God, I kept leaning over to Ben and making Harvey Dent jokes. And then the fucking guy gets lit on fire in the third act and has half of his face burnt off, and he turns into fucking a villain. He's Two-Face. He's literally Two-Face. So we've got Harvey Dent Two-Face. We've got Rachel Dawes or whatever.
We've got Bruce Wayne Batman.
We've got Robin Hood, a.k.a. Robin of Locksley, and who's the vigilante by night, playboy, playing the rich socialites by day. And then the third act transitions into The Dark Knight Rises when the people have to revolt and rise up against Bane, who is Sheriff of Nottingham. Like I said, this is like our fake Zack Snyder's reimagining where he gets confused and the vigilante is basically the Joker in the middle. So it's like he doesn't really understand any of this. Like it's all completely mishmashed, but like it's totally there.
Don't worry though, it's gonna be fucking epic. It's gonna look so fucking cool. It's gonna look like the Wachowski siblings shot this in like 2003 in between the two Matrix movies.
It's like Wachowski's plus Guy Ritchie plus Zack Snyder. It's like all the hits of slow motion in one movie.
There's so much slow motion.
Like literally, there's a scene when Ben Mendelsohn, the Sheriff of Nottingham, the Sheriff of Trump Tower, is putting on his like Jedi robes, his business suit Jedi robes, but he's got on his Nazi boots. So he's the Nazi cosplaying as a Jedi who's also wearing a business suit, and it's like slow motion as he's like putting on this shit. You see like the coat being whipped in slow motion.
He like stomps his Gestapo boot down into the ground, like. You know why they call he's like Christoph Waltz and fucking Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah, this movie's all over the place. It's like this Ben Chandler guy, the screenwriter, is just like all of his favorite movies just smashed into one. But none of them are Robin Hood. So, yeah, basically, like I said, Robin Hood gets drafted into the war, and then he defects and becomes a traitor, but then comes back and is still the lord of his manor.
Just resumes.
And his whole motivation outside of, like, helping Little John, who follows him back and is like, you tried to save my son. Now you're going to help me be Robin Hood because I don't have a hand. His only motivation is really that the Sheriff of Nottingham fucked him over. Like, it's a very personal and selfish reason that he's going and trying to save all these people. It's really just because the sheriff sent him to war and fucked up his house. Mm-hmm. And now he's getting cucked by Two-Face. And that's kind of his goal, is to just cuck Two-Face back. That's really the only motivation of Robin Hood in this movie, is to bang Maid Marian and make Harvey Cuckface watch. You know what I mean? Like...
But, like, in Solo, which is another movie that this one
oh my God.
really, really tragically echoes.
Yeah.
There's a really cringy, like, how he got his name exchange.
We haven't even... Okay.
You want to, like, fucking jump off.
Yeah.
Like, the overpass
Friar Tuck,
on the road.
Friar Tuck, who's played by Tim Minchin, comedian Tim Minchin, at one point is just like, you mean the Hood? That's the name that I call him. And it's like, wow, really? And, like, people start nailing up hoods on the wall as though it's some sort of symbol. And, like, it's really bad. It's really terrible. Like,
they have all these dramatic shots of, like, these weak-ass, like, leather hoods just getting, like...
nailed by these peasants up on their wall.
Yeah, like, they're Martin Luther with the fucking... was it the trees?
With the 99 Thesis on the door.
Yeah, that's the T word that he was nailing.
Meanwhile, like, they live in, like, the Mad Max version of a medieval village where there's just, like, random fires exploding everywhere. Did you notice this? Whenever there's a establishing shot,
because they live in the mines.
Yeah, but, like, the whole town, the whole city is like a mine. Apparently,
don't you know how mines work, Scott?
There's just, like, fracking fires just exploding just left and right. It's like, what is happening? This is, like, really dark. And so the thing with this movie, and I know we've been kind of all over the place, just kind of talking about it, but it's
That's
like
what
this
the movie is.
it's
like,
this weird, like, you think it's like a reimagining of Robin Hood, because they have all the, like, you have Little John, you have the Sheriff of Nottingham, you have Robin Hood, you have Maid Marian, you have Friar Tuck, you have all these characters, and it's like, okay, so this is just a reimagining, or like a reboot, or whatever you want to call it. But then, like, the end of the movie, it becomes very clear, like, you see all of them kind of, like, taking all this gold out of the castle and into the woods, and it's like, oh, wait, now you're starting to get some, like, classic, iconic imagery from Robin Hood.
They're like, we're going to Sherwood, and we're like, oh!
So we figured out that it was not only this crazy reimagining, but it's also a prequel to Robin Hood stories that I guess we're familiar with. So it's like they created this entire convoluted backstory that's basically the same story as the Robin Hood legend, where he's fucking with the Sheriff of Nottingham and stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, which, goddamn, they say more times in this movie than old Uncle Ben warns Peter about great power having great responsibility. Like, that is a line that they nail so many times in this movie. It's like, that's his thing. He steals from the rich and gives to the poor, and they're going to remind you that shit constantly. But, like, it's the whole movie, and then at the end, they kill the Sheriff of Nottingham, and then Two-Face, literally taking off the bandages from his face in the dark, exactly like the Dark Knight, comes out and is like, I'm the Sheriff of Nottingham, and then Robin Hood, like, arrows the wanted poster to the wall, and he's like, welcome to the big boys table, and like, bam, Pirates of the Caribbean music, cut to black. Like, it's straight up sets up a second Sheriff of Nottingham after we've been watching a Sheriff of Nottingham the entire fucking movie, and it's supposed to be like this big reveal. It's like, now it's the Sheriff of Nottingham from the legend, the one that's more like Harvey Two-Face. It's like, wait, what? Are you serious? And by the way, like, we were talking about how Robin Hood getting cucked was a big part of the story. It's a big subplot. That's what turns Harvey Two-Face into Harvey Cuckface, is he literally sees Robin Hood
making out with Marian.
Yeah, cucking him back, making out with Marian in a hole, and he's like so taken aback by it that he drops a flaming, like, torch on himself and then falls into it. He, like, literally sets himself on fire on accident because he can't stand the heat of his Maid Marian getting cucked.
And do you remember that awful like cutaway? Like the angle that they cut to is like
It's like
this jostled like fucking like.
Oh yeah, like him falling into the fire is like laugh out loud
shit.
funny.
Yeah.
And it's the guy from 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh yeah, but he's like got a buzz cut and a beard now, so
Yeah, so that makes it even
and
better.
a really cringy like, oh Lottie, like fucking.
His accent. Oh god.
It's not his natural accent because I've heard him talk in interviews and he's Irish.
Yeah.
But he has like a very
Scottish
even,
accent.
like Irish accent. So I was like, that's not how he normally talks. It's like this really cringy, like, oh, Lottie, like, oh,
sounds like-
I want to know all politics.
He sounds like groundskeeper Willie. So yeah, basically, Robin Hood, steals from the rich and he gives back to the poor, and that's the movie. Like that's the whole fucking movie.
It's just
like
him marauding.
action scene after action scene of him marauding, and using his bow and arrows like a machine gun over and over again. Like there's literally scenes of him like it's like watching soldiers in the war like, all right, cover me, go through here. And it's like going through corridors with the bow and arrow like out and then like whipping it around as though like they're gonna
fucking AR. Like.
Yeah, and it's like what? And like the guards straight up just have fucking rifles that are supposed to be crossbows, but they look like they look like rifles. Or like these big bulky square long rifle looking things, but they're supposed to be crossbows.
But they're rapid fire and they're so powerful that they can like break bricks and like split like shit in half and make it look like it's
it's like
some shootout. Like
it's like steampunk, but not really, because steampunk at least has like its roots in something that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like steampunk in and of itself should make sense. It's like an alternate version of history where we used steam engines more often than we did. That's basically the conceit. This is just nonsense. Like this isn't even trying to be steampunk.
No.
Like that's what a lot of people are saying this is, but this is just like medieval punk. This is like World of Warcraft physics or something. Like that's it's like this weird incongruent world of like medieval fantasy that's not really fantasy, and they're wearing like these really nice like clothing that's like doesn't you know what I mean, like nothing about this matches in any way. It's just like, all right, they're sort of medieval but they're fighting Arabs and it's like Iraq but it's like this, and it's like this guy's like Trump but then this guy's like Batman and then this happens and then Two-Face. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's like 10th century Hot Topic.
That's the perfect description of this movie. It's 10th century Hot Topic, the movie.
Everyone's wearing all this leather and fucking like.
It's like really good looking leather though.
Yeah,
It's like, oh god. So, yeah. After all this, I don't know what else we could say. I don't even know where to go with this review. Like this has just been a hodgepodge mess of what we just watched. Like that's the movie though. Is it just like it just happens to you?
Yeah.
It's just like this movie just unfolds and you have to see it to believe what we're saying. Like I can't make any of this up.
No, it's like this slapped together derivative gonzo like wannabe Matrix Snyder nonsense that's just like, but it just makes no sense with the source material at all, but they commit to it.
They commit to it hard.
Yeah.
Remember that scene there's like during the middle of the montage where like Jamie Foxx is training Robin Hood or Taron Egerton, and then like it just randomly cuts to them eating soup together, and then like Jamie Foxx kind of like looks over,
gives him a nod,
but then like it's like this moment where you feel like they're like fucking with each other, but you don't hear what they're saying and you have no idea what's going on, and then it just quickly cuts away to Jamie Foxx like forcing a metal thimble over his stump hand and screaming,
and then rises his stump,
which he does like a year after he gets his hand cut off, and it's like what? And then it never comes up again until
Nah.
the end when he smacks the sheriff in the head with his stump.
Yeah, he never uses it.
No.
He's like in battle throughout the rest of the movie.
You keep thinking that that's going to be a significant thing, his like metal stump that he's made for himself.
No, it's just there.
It's just there to look cool, and it doesn't
Yeah.
look cool either. It just
No.
looks stupid because it's like
got a
obviously it's
brick on
covering
his
his
arm.
hand.
Yeah.
It's like his arm is all of a sudden like 6 feet long. It's like whoa, what happened there?
What's up, Stubbs? Like,
Basically, you can tell what this movie is going to be like based on the trailers before the movie. And there was like a straight to DVD CBS movie about people with osteoporosis. Or
no,
whatever.
cystic fibrosis.
Cystic fibrosis.
It was
sorry,
like
yeah.
Fault in Our Stars, but like really bad.
And like me and Ben, I think both contracted HIV from that trailer. It was so bad. And like that just cued us
It
up
set
for
the
this
tone.
movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really set the tone.
Like,
And the AIDS hit us hard in the movie itself. I honestly thought we were watching Bohemian Rhapsody because this movie just so just filled with AIDS. So yeah. Ben, let's go to final thoughts. On that note, let's go to final thoughts. What did you think about Taron Egerton, the guy from Kingsman, starring in Robin Hood?
this is some derivatives hodgepodge bullshit, and it's really like it's kind of takes you by surprise how like
Bad.
yeah, how bad and like weird and just misguided it is. Like I keep saying, going back to this, it does not feel like a movie that was made like to be released in late 2018. This feels like something that was supposed to exist like in 2005 and then just like didn't see the light of day until now for some reason, but was not altered in any other way by inserting like
Taron Egerton into the movie because he wasn't born yet, but this was clearly made. But also the fact that this movie couldn't exist without Trump and the bad Trump analogy.
yeah,
Like,
it's so weird. It's like so
it,
trying
like,
to be contemporary.
It dates itself in the movie, but then like forces you to remember that it was made this year.
Yeah. It's really bizarre. I honestly can say, and perhaps this is probably the best compliment I could give it, I have not seen another movie like this year.
Okay.
So, good on you, Ben Chandler. You wrote yourself.
And don't forget the director, Otto Bathurst.
Remember that name, folks!
So what would you give it out of 10?
I would give this... Oof. This is really, really rough. I would give it 3 machine gun arrow quills out of 10.
Okay.
This is,
I don't know what you're
abortion with confetti.
I don't know what you're talking about, Ben. My final thought on this is the best movie I've seen this year. This is something that I've been waiting for my whole life. A movie that can, contextualize Donald Trump as a villain and to basically retell the story of The Dark Knight, but all 3 of the trilogy in 1 hour and a half setting. Like, this is the movie we've all been waiting for. When Dolores Umbridge took over as housemaster at Gryffindor or wherever in the 5th book of Harry Potter,
Yeah.
that's how I felt when Trump became president. And this movie helps recontextualize that for me because I'm an idiot and I can't think for myself, and the only way I can understand real life is by watching trashy movies. So this is a 10 out of 10, 100%. Go see this. Now,
You sounded like an IndieWire headline.
if you're like, if you've been in a coma for the last 20 years and you haven't seen a movie, then you might enjoy this. But this is absolute garbage. Like, I haven't seen a movie like this since Guy Ritchie made a sequel to Sherlock Holmes. I haven't seen anything like this since then. And it's really refreshing to know that there are still jackasses making movies like this in 2018. It's good to know that that dream hasn't died, and that for all you fucking dim-witted, stupid people out there that think that shit like this is cool, well, congratulations, because people are still making movies for you. You're not out yet. You know what I mean? Like, we're still here. We're still making these movies for you. Don't worry. I would give Robin Hood 2018 two thimble stubs out of 10. For me, that's for me. I'm a person, an intellectual, that likes movies that are good. And sometimes I like movies that are bad, but this isn't for me. I'm sorry. This is too stupid even for me.
After watching this, folks who enjoy this could go home and, pop in their VHS tape of The Matrix Revolutions.
Just get some popcorn warmed up. And
yep. Grab a beverage.
Grab a
crispy boy.
Grab a fuse, and you'll enjoy the hell out of this. Grab those Four Locos you've been saving. And just bash your brains in with this stupid shit.
Those Four Locos you've had, those original Four Locos you've had stowed away in your desk mini fridge since Chad's frat party in 2010. Take yourself out.
That's it. So this has been our review for Robin Hood. If you're offended by this, good, because you're the exact type of person that should be offended by this review. If you're offended, and fuck you, stop listening to us. We're not for you. You're listening to the wrong podcast. Go listen to, whale sounds or what the fuck ever you listen to go to sleep, because we're not the podcast for you. I'm sorry if this is the review that you finally realize that, like, hey, wait a minute, I think they're talking down to me. Just tune out. Just stop. Or keep listening, and we'll verbally pummel you again next week for whatever trash we watch. But yeah, this has been our review of Robin Hood. And you might have noticed this episode, after a year, we finally got music. So thank you to Mr. Paul Schaefer for letting us use some of your original music. You guys should check out whatever project he's got working on right now. The music that this is from, I don't think is an ongoing project, but he's a great musician. He recorded this all himself, so thank you, Paul. And I don't know what we're reviewing next week. Maybe it'll be something good. But it might be something bad again. We'll just have to wait and see. But as always, I'm Scott.
I'm Ben.
And this has been a review. Thanks for listening.